It's a new era for the Central Michigan Chippewas, and Matt Drinkall has a lot of work to do. This is a group that finished 4-8 in 2024, and he's looking for a much better result in 2025. We're going to take a look at the top 10 players for this program in 2025, as well as look at the schedule and what we think will happen. We'll start with the defensive side of the ball, and Jordan Kwiatkowski is going to be a really fun player to watch. Second team All MAC last year. He actually entered the transfer portal before ultimately returning. 96 tackles, 14 tackles for loss. And the 14 tackles for loss is pretty impressive. I will admit that. But the 96 tackles had a lot to do with some of the struggles that this defense had. Now, he's a natural playmaker that can make the plays that this defense needs. But you'd like to see the group around him as a whole take a step forward. I think that they have the players in place to make that happen this year. But he is going to be someone that's still really fun to watch. Maybe you'd like to see him get a sack every once in a while, but he is someone that knows what to do at the second level. He knows how to get guys in place, and he is a natural playmaker that's going to get the ball back to his offense. Joining him at the linebacker position, Dakota Cochran is another player to keep an eye on, a very disruptive player, just like his partner. 54 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 6'2", 240 pounds, pretty good frame, especially in the MAC. You feel like they have a really good tandem right there, and that's going to be the core that starts things off. They have a very good front seven. They have a good unit coming back at linebacker, as well as the defensive line, specifically defensive end. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. But Dakota Cochran is someone who will get a lot of attention if he can step up in a big way. Jordan Kwiatkowski will demand a lot of that attention. When you play as well as he does and you finish second team All MAC, coaches know who you are. So a guy like Dakota Cochran is going to have opportunities in front of him, and it's just a matter of if he capitalizes on them or not. Before we continue with the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and take a look. It takes a couple of seconds. It helps the channel grow. We've seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years, and we'd like to keep that going. Doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to hit that goal this year, and you make that happen. But let's get back to the video. The offense has a lot of work to do, and that's not really a secret. But at one point, under Jim McElwain, you felt like this group had a pretty good offense in place. The rushing attack was in a good place. The quarterback position was playing efficient. So Joe Lavis is going to have to step up in a big way. Over 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, also threw 7 interceptions. You need to see him take a step forward. Now, maybe he's too high on this list, but if he plays to the level that he's capable of playing, this will be a really fun offense. Now, he will also have to find some go-to targets. You lost quite a bit of talent from last year's team. But if he can, like I said, if he can play more efficiently, and it doesn't have to be this drastic change, reducing the interceptions from 7 down to 3 or 4 even is a small step that could have major ramifications for this offense. And this passing attack needs to play a role if they want to have success this year. Honestly, the defense, while it did have its fair share of struggles, I feel really good about this defense. It feels like the secondary's in a good place. We talked about the front seven and where they're at. Caleb Spann is a really interesting player. 61 tackles, 6 passes defended, knows what to do with the balls in the air, has the ability to get in position and make plays. So the secondary feels like it's in good hands. And part of that has to do with what the front seven does. If the front seven is getting to the quarterback, if they're being disruptive, you feel like they're in a really good place to produce at a higher level. This is a group that finished 32nd against the pass last year. So this was a very good group. And the defense, I think, is going to be what leads this team, especially with some of the playmakers offensively needing to step up. Quarterback position needs to play better. The running back position must be sorted out. Wide receivers need to step up. So it feels like the defense and this secondary even will play a big role early on. Another guy to pay attention to, Elijah Reichard. This is another player that had a decent year for this secondary. And again, this secondary had a ton of success as a unit. He is another player that had a big role in that. 56 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, only 1 pass defended, so didn't have as much experience getting his hands on the football. But this is someone who's going to have a big time impact for this defense. And when you look at what we've talked about so far 4 of the top 5 players we've talked about on the defensive side of the ball. So that tells you that this is going to be a defense that has a lot of returning talent, that's going to be exciting, and has plenty of ability to win football games for this team, even if this offense isn't up to speed. We talked about the defensive ends and how they can make an impact. And honestly, we talked about how they may be a little bit more prepared for the season than the defensive tackle positions. Michael Haldman is an experienced guy who comes back for another year. 28 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. If he can improve those numbers a little bit, it's going to help the secondary. It'll help the linebackers behind him, and it'll make this defense better at a whole. Again, this defense isn't the problem. And there's a reason why we're talking about so many of these defensive guys more so than the offense. He is a big reason why 6'4", 260 pounds, has the ability to be disruptive, to get around the edge, get to the quarterback. And if he continues to play at the level that he's at, he's going to get all conference honors. And this defense is going to be one of the better defenses in the MAC. Linebacker is going to be a major strength for this team, plain and simple. Fernando Sanchez III is yet another linebacker that will have a major impact. Jordan Kwiatkowski, Dakota Cochran, and Fernando Sanchez is one of the better trios in the group of 5 that maybe you probably don't know. And Fernando Sanchez is a disruptive player. 6 tackles for loss last year, 6'3", 250 pounds. This is a really fun group, and they have good depth behind them as well. They have talent to be disruptive, and we talked about some of the players that teams already have to focus on. If they're focusing on one player or 2 players, Central Michigan has enough talent to step up and have other guys be the main focus for this defense, and that can only mean good things for this team this year. Now, we talked about the need for certain players to step up. Nari Biggins could be one of the guys that is ready to take on a bigger role. Now, didn't have the best year last year, only ran the ball 19 times, but he did take that for 136 yards, which is 7.2 yards per carry. Now, that being said, not really much to go on. You can't really just expect him to do that at a bigger scale. You're going to see a regression. Nobody averages 7.2 yards per carry on 100 carries, 200 carries. You just don't see that. But that being said, this is someone who they expect to take on a bigger role. The running back position is relatively unknown right now. So how do you get certain guys to step up? How does a guy like Biggins take that step forward that they ultimately need to have success? If he does that, you feel like they're in a good position to win more football games. And while the defense holds their end of the bargain, the offense can maybe get up to speed a little bit quicker if he's able to step up. Going back to the defensive side of the ball, Jayon Jackson is really fun on the defense side of the ball. 5'10", 160 pounds, so a little bit on the smaller side, but that's also what makes him so fun. A tenacious player who has the ability to make plays. 38 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended. Teams are still going to test this defense. Even though they were 32nd against the pass, there are some really interesting passing attacks in the MAC this year, and they are going to test this team. That being said, it feels like Central Michigan has the returning talent to prepare for those battles, and they are ready with guys like Jackson and that secondary. And finally, we'll talk about Cade Costas, and this is another defensive end that really makes this defense intriguing. And we talked about the defensive ends and how they're the strength of the defensive line right now. He's another reason why. Michael Haldman plays a role. Cade Costas plays a role as well. And that also is a big reason why they finished 32nd against the pass. It's not just that the secondary was good. It's the defensive line that got to the quarterback, that made the passing window a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, and it gave the quarterback less time to hit guys downfield. If they do that again, the secondary will benefit, the linebackers will benefit, and Central Michigan will win more football games, plain and simple. Speaking of winning football games, now it's time to take a look at the schedule. We'll take a look at, there's not an over-under set right now, so I put it at 4. Feels like that's pretty generous for what the schedule is on top of what this team is capable of doing. If everything goes well, I think a new coaching staff gives a little bit more fire for this program. The players feel maybe more energized. The beginning, though, is going to be tough. At San Jose State, at Pitt, and at Michigan to start the year feels like an 0-3 start. And then that's where you really find out what this program is about. It's not that Central Michigan can't be a good team. It's just that you're probably not winning against those 3 programs, plain and simple. San Jose State's probably the quote unquote easiest of the three, but that's still a very good football team. Wagner should be a win. Eastern Michigan is going to be tough, but the nice thing about the MAC is that anybody can win on any given day, and that's the MAC is the definition of that. Eastern Michigan is better than Central Michigan right now, but that's a winnable game. At Akron's a winnable game. Then you get a little bit of reg. Bowling Green's going through a coaching change. UMass might be a little bit better, but is also going through a coaching change. Western Michigan is better, but again, this is the MAC. Buffalo is a better team. Kent State probably should be a win. Toledo is a contender in the conference. So 6-6, honestly, I can see that. I can see 6 wins for this team if everything is going right. The offense obviously has some questions. The defense feels like it's in a good spot. 3-9 is definitely possible too. That's the scary part about this conference, is that yes, you can win football games, but someone's got to lose them too. Central Michigan is in a different spot. They're going through a coach change. It might take them some time, but they also could surprise some people this year.